My, oh my. The winter update has finally dropped, and people have lots and lots of opinions about it. If you haven't heard all of my opinions about it yet, I had a great discussion with Bust the Net over on his YouTube channel. You can check the link right now up in the upper corner right there. I think that side, I don't know. There's a link. You can click on it and listen to what I had to say about the winter update with Bust the Net. It was a beautiful time, great conversation. One of the things that caught my eye is the following line in the change log that was put out by the developers when they released the winter update. This line made me think that Strikerless, it just might be back, and it might be back in a really big way. So I set out to test that and to see if I could get a Strikerless tactic firing on FM23. Some of you might say that Strikerless never went anywhere. I know that Bustanet himself has a really good Strikerless tactic he's been using in a bunch of his saves, and I've had some success as well. We've released 2 or 3 on the channel already. So in fact, the tactic we're retesting today is a slight rebuild of a tactic that's already been released on the channel, but I wanted to put it through its paces on the winter update in the test database to really kind of illustrate it is back, and we're starting to see results like we haven't seen before yet in the tester. So let's take a look at the tactic and then some highlights before finally breaking down some of the results for this tactic. All right, here we have the tactic. It is a shape that's familiar to watchers of the channel, and you can see right away that it's really similar. We've got those defensive wingers, we have those inverted wingbacks, we have the shadow strikers. A lot of it looks very similar. One thing that is slightly different is we are playing on the attacking mentality, as well as making sure that we are pushing through with a more disciplined approach. So what I'm going for here is I want the team to maintain some shape and not just like be everywhere at once and trying to be all over the place in this strikerless tactic. And that will give it a little bit more like defensive foundation to make sure that it's counterattacking as well as like winning that ball back. Now, remember what we talked about in the patch notes. It says that, you know, the attacking players are more eager to join the counterattack. And I think that's something that Strikerless should really try to exploit. So we're playing a extremely narrow width, but we have overlaps turned on, despite the fact that we're playing IWBs. If you've seen the channel before, that does mean they hold a wider position, and they will hit those diagonal through balls when they have the ball, which is exactly what you want from a strikerless tactic. We are rolling it out to the entire back line to start those counterattacks as well as playing a much higher defensive line, which we've talked about on the channel before. I still think it's good against the AI post-update. Post-update, though, I am seeing slightly more long ball goals, so you might want to kind of adjust whether or not you are comfortable with conceding the occasional goals over the top on counterattacks because you're playing that much higher line, which I think is fair, right? There should be some risk associated with playing a much higher line, and it seems to be the case after the winter update. I also want to work on trapping the teams inside, right, where we have this CM-DM combo, and these defensive wingers have roam from position, and we want them like pinching inside and pushing, funneling all the play inside so that we can trap people in this area of the field here and win the ball back with our defensive wingers and inverted wingbacks, and the DM kind of all just like converging to win that ball back. So I think the tactic is great, and it's been doing really well. The roles are all very similar. There are a few player instructions, specifically on the CM attack does have a ton of instructions, and you can see those here, as do the defensive wingers. We're trying to make them as offensive as possible while still being a defensive winger to take advantage of the close down more and tackle harder instruction that's default to the defensive winger position. And so both of those are equal. This roam from position is really important to make sure they pinch inside, provide cover in the midfield when it's necessary, and press like in these spaces between this triangle of players. There's just shoot less often on these wingbacks when they do bomb forward. We want them squaring the ball for our shadow strikers as much as possible. The shadow strikers are on both shoot less often, tackle harder, mark tighter. That's to help again with that press and winning the ball back without having to play get stuck in, which is an instruction that I think is decent against the AI, but making sure that you can get those hard tackles and that like press in without get stuck in is something that is nice to have, because you will cut down on your cards over the course of the season if you're able to do that. But let's take a look at some of the highlights. All right, on this first highlight, I kind of want to illustrate how quickly the players will engage in the counterattack despite having no strikers in your tactic at all. And so this is the kind of highlight I think you'll see a lot with these strikerless tactics. So Yanazai's cross gets cut out, and then right now, how many players are past the halfway line when we pick it up? Normally you'd have a striker to release the ball to, but that striker is Izak, who's carrying the ball from deep as the shadow striker. But if you watch this play develop, Pereira, Gozens, Harrison, Raspadori, and running with right now is Paulinho, and then Brendan Aronson, who I believe is the CM attack today, is coming from this deep position. And just watch how hard Aronson runs, as well as everyone else, to join this counterattack. Remember, Aronson behind the play. Like when this highlight started and Izak picked the ball up, he was back in this area, and he is just streaming forward, as is everyone else. Like, we still have the inverted wingbacks even now are past half fields keeping up with this counterattack. Pereira and Gozens up here. But Izak here now has, look at this guy, wide open channel run here for Harrison. And behind him is Paulinho unmarked. Now he's an anchor man, so he's also, as an anchor man, joining that attack way past midfield. And then over here, 2-on-1 behind the defender, behind this left back already is Raspadori, with Aronson being just marked by Marçal. So we watch the highlight continue. It does go to Harrison in space. Marçal steps up to it. Raspadori has no marker, and then it's a goal. Like, you will see this kind of like streaming forward with your counterattack constantly. Now, if you do lose the ball, like in that transition phase, you could be exposed, and that's the way it is in real life too. But this is something that like is just clinical about Strikerless, as you're drawing defenders out of position like we saw at the end phase of that highlight, and the offense is just streaming forward constantly. We're going to start this highlight from the defender carrying the ball out of defense, and just look at the shape, right? We've got the IWB here, Paulinho is here, who's the DM, and then Gozens is somewhere over here off screen, and then over here on the left we have Izak, Raspadori is over here at striker, and then here's the CM is Malinovsky. Out wide here, you got Olise as well. So off screen as well is that left defensive winger. And so the shape is exactly the way we've set it up in the tactics screen. So watch how like Job carries the ball here. Like, he carries the ball into space as a ball-playing defender. And we kind of watch this highlight develop. Right there, this pass to Izak, and you start to see this is Gozens, the IWB on attack, starting his underlap attacking run. And here's Pereira doing the same thing. So back right now, we have Paulinho, Jope, and off-screen behind me, there is another center back. And we've got this wide defensive winger, Leon Bailey, hanging out over here, who's keeping this right back honest and pulling him away, which creates this, like, 8-yard channel here for both Izak and Gozens to fit inside, which is just going to cause havoc on the defense and pull people out of shape for the whole rest of the possession. Bailey gets into space here, and what looks like it's going to be just like an easy cross and goal is deflected. Now, if he gets that cross in, Raspadori is in and he scores easily, but he doesn't. So, but what happens here for the rest of the phase of the highlight? I'm going to pause it right here again. Gozens has the ball now, and right now we have Raspadori, we have Izak, we have Malinovsky, and we have Paulinho in the box. And he's like the anchor man, and he's in the box. That's because of the much higher defensive line and the attacking mentality. But Gozens has the ball here. If we pause it again, how many players are in the 18, right? 1 is about to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, that's just absurd. Not Tanguy Nianzou, Izak, right? That's just absurd. And this is against Sevilla, and we are able to push this hard into the middle of the field. So right here again, right, all 8 are now in the penalty area. Paulinho cuts it across here, and then it's Ricardo Pereira, the right back. And when this goal is scored, again, 8 players in the penalty area, which is just insane. And you're going to look how compact now the defense is. How are they going to counterattack from this position, right? It feels like you'd be so overwhelmed with an attacking tactic like this, but instead, like, you do have these two defenders back, but aside from them, there's really nothing, right? Like, you've got so far pushed forward that what is the opposition even going to do? And still, even after that, Pereira, the right back, is unmarked in the box. This is why we play these attacking inverted wingbacks, and he's able to finish. Get yourself a wingback that can finish and has decent composure, and you will reap the benefits in this tactic of just tons of goals and tons of scoring opportunities. All right, in this final highlight, I have a special treat for you. The finish here by Raspadori is just sublime. And we're going to go through this one quickly because we had two pretty long highlights and explanations on the first two. But this is just the standard through ball strikerless goal with a diagonal entry ball. And then it's just a phenomenal finish by Raspadori. So here we go. We'll start the play here with Gozens. Gozens hits it up to Malinowski, immediately plays to Isaac, who just turns his eyes forward and finds Raspadori. Juggle, 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 finish. Like, look at that. He just kept the ball off the ground the entire time. It's a cool animation, and it's the kind of goal you'll see in Strikerless. Maybe absent the juggling with your players, but the diagonal through balls to the shadow strikers running into space behind the defenders, that is the patented Strikerless goal, and it is back. All right, before I walk you through the specific results of this test, I do want to talk a little bit about your expectations and benchmarks for what makes an excellent test in this year's testing database. There are a lot of complaints out there about how hard the Elite League is, and when you look at the teams in the Elite League, I'm just not surprised. They're very, very good. They're all Champions League teams, and the squad we've built for the tester is more of a Europa League team, so it makes sense that you would have a hard time cracking the top half of that division. I've had numerous tests myself where I've won the balanced, average, and underdog leagues and finished dead last in the Elite League. That's happened numerous times to me. While that feels, a little bit like an outlier, what I think you should be aiming for is like 85 points in the underdog league, 80 plus points in the balance league, about 75 plus points in the average league, and then a positive goal difference in the Elite League. If you can accomplish those four things, then you have, I think, the makings of a great tactic and something you should really start drilling down in your saves and sharing with your friends. So I'm not saying every single tactic that I share on the channel is going to meet all four of those benchmarks, but that's, I think, a great starting point for getting like that kind of S tier elite tactic. So let's take a quick look at the results here for this test. And we have hit all of those benchmarks in this test. So we've gotten 86 points in the underdog, which is right underneath me. And so that's where we'll start with the expanded league table. So underdog, 86 points. We've won the league by 20. We've scored 107 goals with Strikerless and only conceded 31. Both totals are best in the division. And then in the average league, we have finished first by a distance. A 10-point lead in the average league is something that is not easy to do because all of these matches are like a fight, right? Every team is about the same level of competition as we are. Some of them probably even a little bit better, like Arsenal and Napoli. But we've still managed to score 85 goals, which is 19 higher than Arsenal. We've only conceded 29, which is 7 less than a goal a game, which is insane. And so this is just a phenomenal result for the average league, which is one of the things that I really love about this test run. And then in the balanced league, we've once again finished first. 81 points is something that's like good for the balanced league. I have personally seen higher in my tests, but because all the other results are so good and we still cross that 80-point threshold, this is the test for me. But also 119 goals in the balanced league is filthy. 30 goals more than the next best team, and still 45 is a great defensive return, but for the division it's tied for third. So like we did okay, I think, defensively. And then in the Elite League, here's where we were able to muster a top half finish. We had more wins than losses and scored 72 goals, which in the Elite League, if you've done much testing, you'll know is an extremely impressive return. It is very difficult to break 60 goals even in the Elite League with our squad, and we've done it with 72, which is the top goal scoring return in the entire league, 8 higher than Manchester City. Now, we did concede 63 goals in this league, which is like third worst in the whole division, so that's a little bit rough, but plus 9 goal difference against the best teams in the world is something you should be really proud of. And I will add, We accomplished this despite finishing the season with 2 points from the last 5 games, right? So if we even pick up like, 4 to 5 more points, we're actually in 4th place, and our goal difference is getting into the double digits, certainly. So this test is not far away from just being a test that you could win leagues like the Elite League with. We're only 10 points off top with getting 2 points in the last 5. So for sure, this is a tactic that I think you can make major noise with in your squad. So where do the goals come from and where do the stats come from? So that's something we want to look at quickly. The CM attack is lights out in this tactic. CM attack and the 2 Shadow Strikers had equal XG roughly over the course of the season. 26 goals for Malinovsky as the CM attack actually led the team in scoring. We're also seeing those inverted wingbacks chip in with 4 or 5 goals each as well as being providers. The defensive wingers are getting close to double-digit goals and being some of the providers, but the big offense is coming through the different attacking triangle of the 2 Shadow Strikers with the CM attack at the base, feeding each other through balls for just countless goals, as well as some of those diagonals coming in from people like Bailey and Ricardo Pereira, right? There's 10 assists from the left side from Bailey, 10 assists from the right side from Pereira chipping in. Guzans also had 5 more, so 15 from the left, and then another 7 assists from Sar, so 17 assists from the right. So those assists are coming kind of from all over the pitch, but it's just very impressive like return here in the balanced league. So today, if you liked what you saw, you can always download the tactic from our Dropbox folder. You can get a link to the Dropbox folder in the description below, as well as a link to join our Discord community, where you can share the results of your own tactic tests. You can download this testing database, learn how to do it, ask questions of everybody in the community. It's over 1,600 members strong, and there's a lot of people in there willing to help and share their thoughts with you on the game and how you can make your tactic better, as well as you can also join my Patreon. The Patreon also is a place to get advice for the game. You get access to a separate Dropbox folder with experimental tactics and set piece routines and stuff like that. So lots of things for you to check out there. And then finally, please follow me and join me on Twitch. I'm about to take a short little break from Twitch for some international travel. I'm off to Tokyo, which is going to be a lot of fun. But when I get back, I'll be streaming my save with currently Vasco da Gama, where I am trying to win the Club World Cup from Brazil. So if you want to get involved in that narrative and storyline as well, go ahead and click the link in the description. Give me a follow on Twitch as well. And once again, obviously, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below what you think about the tactic and what you'd like to see me try next in the Winter Update Tactic Tester. So until then, and until the next video, it might be 2 weeks or so, I will see you all later. Bye.